All right, everybody. Thanks for joining. Thanks for those who are here with us live. And we're recording this for the students who were not able to make it last night to join us, to make it today to join us. Several students last night said they wanted to join but couldn't make the timing. So here we're recording it in order so that everybody can take advantage of it live or later on. Just a very quick idea that I mentioned last night in line of Pesach as we get into the practical questions. Why is it that the wicked son is mentioned suddenly here at Pesach? The wicked son could appear on Yom Kippur, Tisha B'Av, right? The fasting is difficult, under the Sukkah, but Dafka, the wicked son appears here at Leila Seder on Pesach. Why is that? So two short answers that I heard. Number one, maybe the wicked son was turned sour by all of the cleaning and the preparations and the effort that was required in order to get ready for Seder night. There are a tremendous amount of details, and we'll go through a few of them today. But as important as those details are, we want to be as makbid, as careful as possible. We also want to maintain a sense of joy as we come up to Pesach. This is really the story of the love affair between the Jewish people and Hashem, as shown by the reading of Shir HaShirim that we read over Chol HaMoed, the Song of Songs, the love letter that's really about the relationship between Am Yisrael and Hashem. And so we don't want to lose the big picture as far as the joy and love that we're experiencing as we come up to Seder night. We don't want to turn sour, turn ourselves sour, turn those around us sour as we prepare for all the things that we need to for Leila Seder. So another very quick answer: why is it the wicked son appears on Seder night? Because he didn't have a good Purim Suda. So hopefully everyone had a good Purim Suda and that they're filled with joy and ready to go into Pesach. I know I am. But in order to get there, in order to get to Geula, there's a lot of preparation that must happen. And in order to prepare, we have to know what we have to do. So that's why we're doing what we're doing today, a Q&A. I have some questions accumulated here already. I'm going to ask them to you, Rabbi Grodner. And then at the end, if anyone has any questions that we didn't touch on, so we'll open it up and allow them to do that. So just as we open up, let's open up with the cleaning that has to happen, the bedikat chametz, the initial cleaning that has to happen before Pesach. How much does one have to do? What does one have to do? How does that work? Etc. So Rabbi Grodner, would you just give us kind of an introduction to bedikat chametz and how that should look?
Okay, I want to thank you, Rav Yonatan, for putting together this wonderful class, Q&A, questions and answers on Pesach. Pesach is a very appropriate time for questions and answers because asking questions is an integral part of the Haggadah. You have the Manishtana, and you have the four sons who are asking questions, and there are many, many questions that are raised in the text of the Haggadah itself. So that asking questions is a vital part of the Haggadah, and I think it's a vital part because asking questions is a vital part of education. I evaluate the level of a student not by the answers that he or she gives to me, but rather by the questions. Good questions indicate a curiosity and also indicate a level of intelligence. Very often in my classes, a student will introduce the question by saying, I know this is a stupid question, but my response generally is, I've been teaching for many years. I've been teaching now for more than 60 years, believe it or not. And I have never, ever come across a stupid question. Never. So no one should ever be ashamed to ask a question. Regarding the subject, is it Bedikat Chametz, Rav Yonatan, that you want to discuss?
Correct.
Okay. So the Chametz is so prohibited. It is so prohibited. It is more prohibited than pork. It is more prohibited than any unkosher food that you can think of, because Not only is it forbidden to be eaten, it's even forbidden to own it, to have it in your possession. If you were to have a loaf of bread, as an example of chametz, and put it into a spaceship and send it to the moon, and it's there on Pesach, you would be in violation. Why? I can't get to it. It's on the moon. I'm here on Earth. You'd be in violation of the fact that you own chametz. The ownership, the possession of chametz is forbidden. So you see how far we go in the prohibition of chametz. The only violation, the only prohibition that goes as far as chametz is idolatry. One is forbidden to use idolatry, one is forbidden to own idolatry, or an idol. So too with chametz. That's how far it goes. Why should chametz be so prohibitive? There are several reasons that are given. One reason is most prohibited foods are prohibited all year round. What is not kosher 365 days a year. Chametz, on the other hand, is not kosher only 7 days of the year. So only 7 days. The rest of the year, chametz is perfectly good, perfectly kosher. So the fact that it's so available and you're so accustomed to eating it, the Torah added extra prohibitions to prevent violation. A second reason why chametz is so forbidden is the punishment that goes with it. The punishment of eating chametz is far worse than that of eating pork. Eating chametz on Pesach would be a person intentionally eating chametz would be in violation and culpable of a punishment called karet, or excision, meaning that the soul is cut off. That's one of the worst punishments imaginable. And therefore, in order to prevent such a prohibition, a violation of such a prohibition, the Torah says you should not only not eat it, but you should not own it at all. Now, what do we do to remove chametz from our possession? So there are several ways in which we can do that, and we do all of them, in fact. One way is to sell it or give it away. If you have chametz in your closet or in your refrigerator, give it away to someone who's not Jewish. They'll be happy to receive it. It's good, healthy food. You're welcome to do that. And it's no longer yours. So give it away as a present or sell it. You can do that. That's one solution. Another solution is to make sure that you have no chametz in your house. And how can you do that? By doing what is called a bedika chametz. Now, the bedika is a search, an honest-to-goodness search for the chametz. We call it a search and destroy mission. You search for it on the night before Pesach, the night of the 14th of Nisan, to make sure that it's a search and not just an observation, looking around and say, well, I don't see any chametz, that's okay. We want to make a real search, so we take a candle or a flashlight in a darkened room, and you go around the room, and every place where there might be chametz, you search and see if there is any chametz there. Of course, life will be easier if you do a nice cleaning of the house before then. It makes it a lot easier. But whether you've done house cleaning or not done house cleaning, the search has to be an honest search. I emphasize searching only those places where you might have brought chametz. For example, most people don't bring chametz into the bathroom. You don't have to search the bathroom. Closets that you wouldn't put chametz into, or an attic or a basement, any area of the house where you wouldn't bring chametz normally during the year, you don't have to search. But those areas, kitchen, dining room, living room, bedroom, if you eat in bed, all of these places have to be searched. Now, flashlight is permitted. It's safer than a candle because a candle could be dangerous. And you search. There's a bracha to be made before you begin. I'll be your chametz. I'll be your chametz. I'll explain that in a moment. After the search, you declare. It's printed in the Haggadah. You declare that any chametz that I don't know about, I'm not aware of, I nullify it, and I give up my ownership. It is no longer mine. Okay, so if you missed some chametz that you were not aware of, it's not yours, so you're not responsible. And by the way, when we say looking for chametz, we don't have to go looking for crumbs. Okay, crumbs are not considered as food. You have some crumbs maybe on the floor, on the table. You don't have to go searching for crumbs. But anything of a sizable amount, a kazayat would be a sizable amount, which would be about the volume of a half an egg. That would be something that you have to be very much aware of and search it if you can. There is a custom to take 10 pieces of chametz and hide them, so to speak, or have someone hide them for you, and you go searching. But I want to remind you, you're searching not only for the 10 pieces, but you're searching for all chametz. But if you find the 10 pieces, how good, how good it is. If you only find 9, you may spend a lot of time that night searching your house if you haven't found the 10th piece. So the placing of 10 pieces of chametz is started with the Ari HaKadosh in the 16th century, and there are some who say it's completely unnecessary. As long as you're searching, the bracha would not be a bracha in vain. If you searched and you didn't find any chametz, it's okay. The bracha would not be a bracha in vain. Now, after you've nullified your chametz on the night before Pesach, on the 14th, you've only nullified the chametz that you don't know about, that you're not aware of. But you may have chametz that you want to have for breakfast because you're allowed to eat chametz up to a certain time in the morning on the day before Pesach. So therefore, you can put some chametz aside for your breakfast, and that's fine. And you're not nullifying that. However, when you get closer to the time when chametz has to be completely rid of, then whatever chametz you have, whatever you found in your bedika, in your search, and whatever you saved for your breakfast, put it all together in preferably a paper bag or a carton, and bring it to a place where there will be a fire and burn it. When you burn the chametz, then you say another nullification, and in that nullification, you'll be saying, I hereby nullify and give up ownership of all chametz, that which I know about and that which I don't know about. And that's the end of that. So what have we done so far? We have searched for the chametz, we've nullified the chametz, we've gotten rid of any chametz that may be in our possession, and what else? What else do we do? Is there anything else that we do, Rav Yonatan? Am I missing anything? Selling the chametz, and
I think you mentioned that. I think you mentioned it all. We'll put out a link, by the way, through Tzohar, where people can sell their chametz if they don't have a local shul through which to do that. I think you went through and hit all the points, as far as I understand. I would just,
there is one other point that I failed to mention. I think one of the students asked this question: what if I'm leaving my apartment or my room before the 14th of Nisan?
Right. So just 1 second, Rabbi. Before that, just a question on that and a follow-up. That hearing you explain it already puts me at ease. In other words, we have to look for the chametz. We're looking for a kazayat in the places where we have gone with food. Now, I assume that's speaking about someone who will not be eating in their kitchen. In other words, kitchen areas where there's going to be cooking done or where they'll be eating on Pesach. On those areas, we have to be a little bit more stringent, correct? And we would be concerned about crumbs. And without getting into all the laws of how to kosher all the different appliances, in general, the kitchen and the table where we're eating would be a little more stringent. Is that correct?
Of course, we want to make sure that all chametz is rid of. And if you are going to be eating chametz, many people will take it outside their apartment or outside their home and eat it in a place where nothing in the house will be contaminated by chametz. That's correct. On the question of someone who's leaving his home before the night of Pesach, the night of 14th, what shall I do? So here, the halacha is very clear. If you're leaving your apartment or your home within 30 days of Pesach, which means after Purim, you must do a bedika. The night before you leave, you must do a bedika, as you would on the night of the 14th. However, there's one difference, and that is you do not make a bracha. You do not make a blessing. The bracha is made only when you're doing the bedika in its proper time, which is the night of the 14th of Nisan. If you do it before then, do the bedika without a bracha. If you're leaving your home more than 1 month before Pesach, before Purim leaving, then you're not obligated to search for chametz. However, keep in mind that you must be rid of all chametz that belongs to you, and that can be done by bitul, by nullification, and that you'll be doing erev Pesach, in the morning before Pesach, with the hola kol chamira chamir dika b'rishuti. You are nullifying the chametz that belongs to you.
Sorry for that person who will not be there doing the bedika on their apartment, their home on the 14th. They would not make the first bracha that evening on the 14th, but they would make the second bracha the morning of, during the time of biur chametz, which would rid them completely of any kind of ownership with any chametz that they might have left in their home or that is in their reshut. Is that correct? I understand that correctly?
You're saying the bracha, the biur chametz, is that?
Biur chametz, the second bracha that we make the day of, right?
If he's doing it before the 14th.
Right. Would that person make that bracha in the morning?
In other words, he did the bedika before the 14th.
Correct.
And then the following morning, he's going to burn that chametz that he found. He should make the bracha biur chametz, yes.
Mm-hmm. And if he doesn't have any more chametz at that point, then there's nothing to make a bracha over, and there would be no bracha in that situation.
That's correct.
Okay, very good. Now, on that same note, because this is specifically the students who live at Hebrew U, there are apartments that have mixed Jewish students with non-Jewish students. So let's say we have a Jewish student who, is keeping the laws of Passover, and they are very makpid to get rid of all their chametz, but yet they have a non-Jewish roommate who has chametz in their reshut, in their part of the apartment, in their room, which is part of a shared apartment, maybe even the cupboard, in the shared kitchen. How does that work as far as the person who wants to make sure that they are keeping, the Jewish person who wants to keep Passover?
It's a good question. It's a very practical question. I would say as follows. One is not responsible for chametz that belongs to a Gentile. As we said earlier, it's not mine. If it's not mine, I don't possess it. I don't own it, and therefore it is not my concern. However, I do have a concern about having the availability of chametz in my apartment, in my room, which I'm accustomed to eating all year long. A box of crackers or cookies or a piece of bread or a cake, and I never think twice about taking it and eating it. So therefore, precautions have to be made to prevent eating the chametz mistakenly. And I think the only way to do that is to ask the non-Jewish roommate to please put all of his chametz in a separate place where, preferably, if it's not even, it should not be seen by you. If it's an enclosed area, And it may even require curtaining off a part of the room where hummus can be stored. The refrigerator would be a problem. The refrigerator would certainly be a problem. But even there, it's possible to give the lower shelves to the non-Jew and have him cover the food that's in there. Again, to keep it out of sight, okay? As the expression goes, out of sight is out of mind. So that is what one should do, to try to remember, to help you remember not to eat hummus. It should not be visible to your eyes.
So basically what I hear from you, rabbis, there's two facets to this. Number one, a person who has a non-Jewish roommate should not be concerned that they're let's say concerned about their ownership of the chametz that the roommate has, because it's not his or hers, it's the non-Jews. Nevertheless, as a way to keep one from making a mistake, preparation should be made between, the Jewish and the non-Jewish roommate to make sure that it doesn't accidentally end up in a place where the Jewish student would come across it by accident or forgetting and eat it and that type of thing. And to have an open communication about trying to have the non-Jew put it away or put it in a special place where the Jewish student won't come into contact with it.
And there's another consideration. Sometimes roommates will share pots and pans and silverware.
Mm-hmm.
Now you have to be very careful in not sharing any of the utensils or pots or pans and whatever. Even the microwave, if it's going to be used by the non-Jew, then you will not be able to use the microwave. So there are many precautions. If the non-Jewish roommate refuses to be cooperative, then I think you need to find another roommate.
Good life advice in general, not only for Pesach. Hopefully there can be some good communication, and thankfully, in general, from what I've heard, this has not been an issue. Non-Jews are generally very happy to help out in this manner. So
very respectful.
Yeah, 100%, absolutely. Okay, very good. Now, just as far as the rest of koshering for the kitchen, etc., if anyone wants, I have a list of ways to kosher one's kitchen for Pesach. That would take us into a lot of details that would take us a lot of time. So if anyone wants that, they can feel free to write me and I'll send that to you. One of the questions that came in was about matzah, the centerpiece of Seder night. How much do I have to eat on Seder night was the question, and why do I have to eat it so quickly?
That's a very good question. When the simple answer, the direct answer is the measure of matzah that we are required to eat is a kizayit. Kizayit, the word zayit means an olive. So kizayit means the volume of an olive. How big is an olive? That's a good question. How big is an olive? Are the olives today the same as the olives years ago? I don't know. It's a very difficult question to give an exact quantity. When Rabbi Soloveitchik Zatzal was asked, what is the size of a kazayit? He says, I don't know. He says, there is one thing I do know, that elephants don't lay eggs, because a kazayit is a half an egg, the volume of half of an egg, half of a hard-boiled egg. And elephants don't lay eggs, so don't get carried away with the size of your kazayit. That was his answer. Some say a kazayit is half the volume of an egg. Some say it's 1/3 the volume of an egg. So there are many different opinions, but I would like to share with you the opinion of Rav Moshe Feinstein. Moshe Feinstein is universally acknowledged as one of the greatest of the poskim, halakhic decisors of the last generation. And I will bring to you what he says as far as the size of a kazayit. I'll give you the numbers and I'll show you on a piece of paper. Now, the matzah that we're going to be eating on Seder night, there are two quantities, two different quantities. Why would there be two different quantities if the quantity is a kazayit? The answer is there is one eating of matzah that is ordained by the Torah. It's a biblical commandment. It's a midyoraita. And there's another eating of the matzah, which is mizrabanan. It's a rabbinic or halacha. As generally the case, when it comes to mitzvot min haTorah, midyoraita, we are more stringent. Mitzvot rabbanan, we are more lenient. When it comes to the size of a kazayit of matzah, we see this demonstrated very, very tangibly. So the matzah, the first kazayit of matzah that we will eat is the fulfillment of a command of the Torah, ba'erev tochlu matzot. In the evening thou shalt eat matzot. You're fulfilling a mitzvah midyoraita. The korech, the matzah that you'll be eating together with the maror, is the rabbinic. It's rabbinic. There'll be another kazayit of matzah that you'll be eating as the afikomen. Okay, now the afikomen is debatable. It is debatable as to what its status is. According to Rashi, it's the fulfillment of matzah is in the afikomen. According to Rambam, it's in the first kazayit. Rashi, the last kazayit. So therefore, the afikomen should also be the larger size kazayit. So this is in theory. In practical terms, let me give you exact dimensions. If you'd like to write them down, it might be helpful. If we're eating the matzah commanded to us by the Torah, which, as we said, is the first kazayit and the last kazayit, which is the afikomen, we're talking about 7 inches by 6.25 inches, or in centimeters, it's 17.78 times 15.88. Okay, that would be the size of a kazayit midyoraita. If you can view this, is that clear? Okay. The square that you see, or the rectangle that
see that
is a kazayit. Picture that in terms of your matzah. Whether you're eating a square matzah or a round matzah, this is the size we're talking about.
It's about 2/3 of a machine piece of matzah. Is that more or less what we're talking about?
About 2/3, yes. About 2/3 of a machine-made matzah, or about a half of a handmade matzah. The dotted line shows us how far the kazayit goes, the rabbinic kazayit goes. As you can see, it's smaller than the larger size. So it only goes from here. And that would be the kazayit that you would have for your korech, for your eating the matzah and the maror together. Okay,
That's
so
basically a one piece of machine matzah divided by the 2 different achilot that we do during the evening.
if you have one matzah,
in other words, the end of the day, between both of the different eatings, I'm going to eat minimum of about 1 piece of machine matzah. Is that correct?
No, more. You have, first of all, you have motzi matzah. Some say 1 kazayit is sufficient. Some say you need 2 kazayitim. Motzi, hamotzi lechem min haaretz, and then alachilat matzah. So there may be 2 there. Then you're going to have a kazayit of matzah for the korech. And then you can have another kazayit of matzah, which will be the afikomen. So there could be a total of 4 kazayitim. So one square matzah would not suffice.
And so for the first and the last, those would have to be reliant on the larger shiur, according to the shita that you shared with us about Rashi, and the afikomen needing to be, it's a possible kiyum of the deoraita, so that the alachilat matzah and the afikomen, those would need to be the larger shiurim.
The larger shiur, correct. Whereas the korech would be the smaller shiur, because it's certainly D'Rabbanan.
Okay, very good. Now, when we see people eat matzah, I remember seeing this many years ago, my first Chabad Seder when I came to Israel. The eating of the matzah is done very quickly. There's no talking during it. At least at that Seder, we don't do this, but there was a eating over the bag. Some people are very makpid about even the crumbs of matzah, shruya. But the speed in which one needs to eat it seems to be a part of the puzzle as well. What we call achilat pras. Would you just speak about that a little bit, Rabbi?
Yes. It's very important to take note of the importance of measurements. Much of halacha is dependent upon measurements in space and measurements in time. For example, in the measurements of space, we have shiurim, we have the measure of tefach, we have an amma, we have dalad amot, we have a mil, we have a parsa. I'm not going to explain each and every one, but each and every one is a certain dimension of space, and halacha is determined by these different dimensions. The Beit HaMikdash also has dimensions, the dimensions of the Heichal and the courtyard and the Ezrat Nashim. It's all determined by space, and each one has its own level of kedusha, its own level of holiness. We also have the element of time. Time is also a very important factor in understanding halacha. For example, we have, what is a day? Day could begin alot hashachar, which is dawn, or netzach hama, sunrise, or we have another time frame of shkia, the sunset. We have ben hashmashot, the period of time between sunset and nightfall itself, Seta Kochavim, Chatzot Hayom, Chatzot Halayla, Mincha Gedola, Mincha Ketana. When does Shabbat begin? The difference of 1 second could make the difference between doing something that is perfectly permissible versus something that is a violation of Shabbat, Mechil Shabbat. 1 second can make all the difference. So we see that time and space are relegated to time, to dimensions, and halacha is very much based on this concept. The fact that Pesach itself is a dimension of time. Shabbat is a dimension of time. Yom Tov is a dimension of time. Time itself is sanctified within that certain time frame. Now, having said that, there's a time frame in which to eat your kazayit of matzah. Why do you need a time frame? So let me explain. If I were to take, I have a certain measure of matzah that I'm required to eat. So I take a small piece, a tiny piece, and I eat one piece. I wait an hour and I take another small piece. I wait another hour, another small piece. At the end of 12 hours, I've eaten a kazayit of matzah. Is that considered eating, or is that considered tasting? If you're eating such a small amount, that's called te'ima. You've tasted something, you've tasted food, but you've not eaten. Eating has a definition, and the definition is eating a kazayit b'toch kedei achilat pras. We talked about the size of a kazayit. What is toch kedei achilat pras? Well, let me explain. A whole loaf of bread is called a kikar. A whole loaf of bread is considered to be a sufficient amount of food for 2 meals a day. If I were to cut that loaf of bread into half, each half is called a pras. The modern word prusa, what's a prusa? Prusa means a slice, but here it means half. pras is half of the kikar. That is one thing. How long does it take to eat half a loaf of bread? Because we're not talking about eating on Pesach. We're talking about all year round. How long does it take to eat half a loaf of bread? A pras. Well, it's a very difficult question because the answers range from 9 minutes to 2 minutes. The Khatam Sofer says 9 minutes. I forget who was that, 2 minutes. Rav Soloveitchik says 4 minutes. There's such a difference of opinion. How long does it take to eat? Of course, everyone eats at a different rate. It's hard to judge. In fact, the Aruch HaShulchan says there is no fixed time. It's you just eat as you would normally eat, as you would normally eat. Some people eat faster, some people eat slow. Eat as you would normally eat, and that's your B'chtei Achilat Pras. So, to understand the concept, we're eating a kazayit within a certain time frame, so that it's considered achila, it's considered eating. How many minutes? I would recommend, and people ask me, I would say within 4 minutes, which is a reasonable amount of time. And but it does mean that once you've started eating your matzah, your kazayit matzah, don't engage in conversation, because you're not going to be finished with eating the matzah in the limited amount of time. You should focus only on eating the matzah. On a personal level, when I eat my matzah, I close my eyes and I bring myself back 3,000 years and say to myself, I am a slave in Egypt and this is my meal. I try to experience what our ancestors experienced when they were in Egypt. And that's the Kazayit B'chtei Achilat Pras. What is the pras itself? The volume, here you have a machloket, a controversy between Rashi and Rambam. Rambam says that a pras is a volume of 3 eggs, and Rashi says a volume of 4 eggs. But we've talked about what is a kazayit and the time frame. So these are the 2 elements: the element of quantity and the element of time. Both have to be taken into consideration when fulfilling the mitzvah of Achilat Matzah.
Very good, Rabbi. Now, on the heels of this, I didn't ask you to prepare on this, but it seems to me an important question as well, since we're talking about shiurim. The rabbi said, hey, we have these beautiful mitzvot of achilah. We have to bring a drink. Let's celebrate with wine. So we have the 4 kosot, the arba kosot. One interesting distinction is that usually, let's say on Friday night kiddush, where you'll have one person being the makadesh usually, and everyone else is yotzi. Seder night, everyone has their own kos. The first kos of kiddush is one of the arba kosot. There are a couple of different questions around this as far as the amount that one should drink as far as the arba kosot. Also mentioning that this isn't Purim, and we don't want to, have a Purim experience through the 4 kosot. So, what will be the shiur of those 4 kosot? And some people either don't like or get ill with alcohol. And so what should they do if they're unable or don't want to drink actual wine during the arba kosot?
Okay. The drinking of the 4 cups is mandatory, is obligatory on the night of the Seder. Many reasons are given for it, but one of the main reasons is the fact that Hashem says to Moshe Rabbeinu, I will take the children of Israel out of Egypt, but he said it using 4 different expressions. Voseti, V'hitzalti, V'ga'alti, V'lakachti. Because of the 4 expressions, we drink 4 cups of wine. Now, how much is in the cup? If you cannot drink wine, you can use grape juice. Grape juice is the equivalent to wine. It's the same bracha, and you'll fulfill your obligation completely if you use grape juice instead of wine. Wine is preferable, because wine has an element of simcha, of joy attached to it. But if you don't like the taste of wine, or your body doesn't appreciate wine, you can have grape juice. There's no problem. But again, we're coming now to shiurim. We're coming to the measure how much is in a revi'at. Revi'at is the term. Revi'at is a quarter of a lug. Okay, so let's discuss the volume of a revi'at. What does that mean? Again, here we have two different shiurim, depending on whether your cup of wine is a fulfillment of a mitzvah mid'oraita, or your cup of wine is a fulfillment of a mitzvah d'Rabbanan. The kiddush that we make on Shabbat, Friday night, is a fulfillment of a mitzvah mid'oraita. Kiddush is mid'oraita, and therefore the wine requires a larger quantity. What is the quantity of a revi'at? According again to Rav Moshe Feinstein, it's 4.1 ounces. If you're drinking wine as part of the Kiddush for Yom Tov, which is Pesach or Shavuot or Sukkot, there it's a lesser quantity, namely 3.3 ounces. 3.3 ounces is 97.6 milligrams. Okay, that was and this year, of course, the night of Pesach is not on Shabbat, so you can use a smaller measure of 3.3 ounces or 97.6 milligrams, which is not a very large amount. And again, be sure to drink it within the time frame that we mentioned earlier. And furthermore, drink your wine in a reclining position. And when you eat your matzah in a reclining position, because we have to show our freedom. And a slave eating it like this over a table, over a chair. But a rich person, a free person, sits luxuriously. Now, some people say it's uncomfortable to lean on my left side when I'm eating because I have nothing to lean on. So let me demonstrate a simple solution to this problem. If I swing my chair around to 45 degrees, okay, I've turned my chair 45 degrees. Now it's very easy for me to lean to my left with my elbow on the table, my left elbow on the table, and now I'm leaning to the left, and I'm fulfilling the mitzvah haseva, which is leaning to the left. There's one other shiur that should be mentioned if we're on the subject, and that is the maror. A maror also requires a kazayit. And what if I'm using not horseradish, but romaine lettuce for the maror? So here it's the shiur, the measure is 8 by 10 inches of lettuce leaf. That's Lettuce, lettuce, not Letus. Lettuce leaf, 8 by 10 inches. Translated to centimeters, it's 20.32 times 25.4. That's the shiur for the romaine lettuce.
Very good, Rabbi. I've, over the years, learned to bring out smaller cups for Leila Seder, both so that the shiur is reached, but also that the cup has rov kos in it. In other words, the 100 milligrams, or I've seen in other places, if someone is, let's say, diabetic or has a problem with sugar, that they could be yotzi with 76 milliliters. But that smaller shiur, if you have a regular wine glass, it might not fill half of it or to the top of it. So I like to have a smaller wine glass that is filled up all the way, but yet still reaches the shiurim that you mentioned. And I think that also allows one to enjoy the Seder without feeling too drunk, if one does like to drink wine on Leila Seder.
Good idea.
Okay, one point about kitniot that I'll bring up and mention, and I'm curious if your thoughts on this as well, Rabbi Grodner. I had a student call me last year from the grocery store. An Ashkenaz young man who was trying to navigate the Heksherim for Pesach for the first time. Now, if someone comes from America, which I'm familiar with, I imagine in Europe the same, or other parts of the world, but certainly in America, it's very Ashkenazi-centric in America. Everything is very clearly labeled, and if it says kosher for Pesach in America, so you really don't have to worry about it. Here, in Israel, things are a little bit different. It tends to be more focused on the Sephardi public, or those who are open to eating kitniot. Just in general, there is a lot of discussion around the eating of kitniot around this time. It tends to be kind of the first question that comes up. I like to appreciate the minhag of not eating kitniot as a part of connecting to my personal story, my family's personal story of coming out of Ashkenaz, as part of the Masoret. The story of Pesach is really about the Masoret. Seder night is really about the Masoret. And so I encourage people to appreciate that our Masoret has opened up in the way that it has. Those of us who are Ashkenazi and don't eat kitniot, and appreciate for a week. There may be things that we see our Sephardi friends and neighbors eating that we might be a little jealous of. Sushi, I'll mention for myself. But through refraining from eating those things, I'm connecting to the specific Masoret of the Ashkenaz tradition. I think there are a lot of other reasons, real concerns about kitniot as well. But without getting into that, as far as I understand, there are no major Ashkenazi poskim who allow the eating of kitniot. And so that's my understanding of, that's the bottom line that we do in my family. Again, I'll turn to you in a second, Rabbi Grodner. However,
maybe you should define kitniot.
I think the English word is legumes. Thank you. So legumes, rice, beans, anything that's not of the 5 grains. Okay, but this also includes seeds, according to many, but not all, green beans, popcorn. It's a broader category just beyond beans and rice. So that's the main part of it. So many products on it at the grocery store will have a little stamp on it that says La'ochle kitniot bilvad, only for those who eat kitniot. So I had a student call me, going back to the story that I brought this up. I had a student call me. He had picked up a container of eggplant salad in tomato sauce, and it says on it La'ochle kitniot bilvad. And he said, I don't understand. There's no legumes in here. There's no actual kitniot in here. It's eggplant and tomato sauce. What would be the problem for me to have this? Why did they mark this as if I wouldn't be able to eat it? So I explained to him that there probably is soy oil in the product. And since soy is considered kitniot, it's considered a legume. So therefore, they marked it la'ochle kitniot bilvad. Now, according to every single one of my rebbeim here in Eretz Yisrael, Rabbi Grodner, again, will share if he has a different psak on this. But according to all my rebbeim here in Israel, kitniot byproducts, and a great example of that would be soy oil. In other words, not soy itself, but the byproduct of kitniot, of legumes, soy oil, as long as it's not rove, as long as it's not the majority of the product, it would be okay. It would be bitul, it would be batel, it would be nullified. And therefore, since it's a minhag, which is a din d'Rabbanan, as long as it's not the rove, so then we do not have to be concerned about it. So in that case, there would be a number of products that say la'ochle kitniot bilvad, that say this is only for those who eat kitniot, that for Ashkenazim, as long as there is not rove kitniot byproduct in it, again, not the kitniot itself, but the kitniot byproduct, which is called mei kitniot, as long as that's not the case, it would be permitted. So I shared with the student, according to what I received from my rabbis, since it is not rove, the majority of the product is not soy oil, and therefore, since we're in a minhag, therefore, the eggplant salad with tomatoes with a small amount of soy oil would be permitted. And that's in general how we go in our family, and if people ask, that's what I share. Rabbi Grodner, I'm going to turn to you and see if your understanding of this and your position on this is the same.
I think you explained it very well, but it should be pointed out that this is a controversy, a machloket that goes back to the time of the Rishonim, perhaps even in the Gemara, the products coming from Kitniot, no, not from the Gemara, because the minhag of it's the minhag of Kitniot actually was established probably in time of the Gaonim, post Talmudic period. There's no mention of Kitniot in the Gemara, so the minhag of Kitniot adopted by Ashkenazim. For what reason? Why should I not be allowed to eat corn or rice or beans? These products actually can be turned into flour, and they actually can be turned into bread. You can make rice bread. You can make corn bread. Now, you look at a bread, you might not always be able to tell if it's made from wheat, in which it's absolute chametz, or made from rice, in which is kitniot, which is a minhag, it's a custom and not forbidden by the Torah. In order to prevent any kind of confusion, the Ashkenazic Jewry adopted the minhag of not eating kitniot. So this is the basis for it. As far as the products are concerned, it's taking it one step further. Not only will I not eat corn, I will not eat corn oil, even though it's not the corn itself, and corn oil cannot be turned into flour and made into bread. Again, it's a machloket. Rav Moshe Feinstein opposed eating the oils from kitniot, with one exception. There's one exception, and that being
peanuts.
Peanut oil. Peanut oil, he said, is okay. And now why? For a very, very interesting reason. Peanuts originated in America. Okay? It originated in America, meaning that at the time when the custom was adopted, they had no knowledge of peanuts. So therefore, the custom may not apply to peanuts altogether. But since botanically peanuts are a legume, they're part of the legume family, so we don't eat peanuts. But because they are lenient, it's a leniency, he permitted peanut oil. And you'll find that you will not find an OU on corn oil, never find OUP, which is kosher for Pesach, on a corn oil package, but you will find OU on the peanut oil package. That's the difference.
Very interesting. We have friends that made Aliyah from Philadelphia, and based on what you were sharing, peanut oil, they ate during Pesach. That was the way that they had the traditions in their families, and they came here to Israel, and people looked at them. No one eats peanuts here, whereas the byproducts of the oils, people said no, that we do eat that here, and they said absolutely not, we don't eat that. So it's interesting, in the times of kibbutz galiyot that we're living, all these different minhagim, especially around these that we have as far as Pesach is concerned, kind of come out in very different, interesting ways. Just as a general note, myself and Rabbi Grodner are definitely open to answer questions. People at the grocery store, they should feel free to reach out to us. We're happy to help out in that way. I'm just looking at the clock, Rabbi Grodner, and I think we did a good job of covering some very important basics. I'm going to open it up to those who are here with us live to see if they have a question or two. But if not, then we're going to pause for today. This was really fantastic. Anyone have any questions they want to ask myself or Rabbi Grodner before we pause?
Well, I want to thank you for coming. It's a pleasure to have you here, and to have a wonderful Pesach. And I feel that we're really, really blessed to be able to celebrate Pesach in Eretz Yisrael. Tomorrow is Rosh Chodesh Nisan, and it's the beginning of the month of Nisan. Nisan means Nisim, miracles, and it's also the month of redemption. And I hope and pray that the war with Iran is going to end soon, victoriously in our favor. And the evil regime, the anti-Semitic hateful regime of Iran and Hezbollah and all the others will be defeated and destroyed. They are Amalek today, not virtual. They are living Amalek today. And when that ideology is eliminated, there'll be peace in the world, because it's an ideology that looks to conquer the world. There's no question about it. This is fundamental Muslim belief. To conquer the world and force anyone who doesn't believe in Islam is a heretic, is an infidel, and deserves death. That's what we're up against. So with Hashem's help, we will overcome our enemies and we'll be able to enjoy not only Pesach, but all year round in happiness and joy. God bless you. Chag Kasher V'Sameach.
Yashar Koach, Rabbi Grodner. Thank you very much for all of your wisdom, sharing that with us. Definitely appreciate it. And Chodesh Tov. We'll talk to you very soon. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks. Chodesh Tov.
Chodesh Tov. Chodesh Tov, everyone.
Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye, Rivka. Good to see you. I'm very happy to see you.
Oh yeah, me too.
Let me know when you come back to Israel, okay?
Sure.
Okay.
Yom Tov.